Joining us this week for Know Your Enemy, Colorado versus Iowa State. We got Jake Brend from the Cyclone Fanatic joining us. Jake, appreciate you joining us, man. We'll start off with this. The Buffs hit with a brutal injury report. But for the Cyclones, I mean, Carson Hansen also appears on the injury report. Just how concerned are you guys for your side of this injury report compared to what you had last weekend?
Yeah, man, it hasn't been a good 2 years for Iowa State injury-wise. Last year, they were down to their fifth-string linebackers at one point. Like, they were just decimated in one injury group, in one position group. This year, it's kind of been the same. They lost two All-American caliber cornerbacks in the span of 1 week. The kicker has been out for a few weeks. The backup kicker has missed the whole season. So they're down to a third-string kicker right now that they don't trust to hit a 35-yarder. And then, yes, Carson Hansen, he suffered a concussion around halftime of the last game. So he's questionable. But yeah, when the injury report came out, I knew what Iowa State's would look like. It was going to be big. Colorado's the first one that I've seen match it in length.
It's not going great out here right now.
Jake, obviously Iowa State's coming off their first loss of the year. We were obviously pretty tuned into that game last week in Cincinnati. Cincinnati just kind of came out on fire, man, kind of punched them in the mouth. What was kind of your read on what kind of took Iowa State out of their element and, kind of prevented them from extending that winning streak to 6 games to start the year?
Yeah, there's a lot of different things that happened. I think the biggest reason, I mentioned those two cornerbacks getting injured, Jontez Williams and Jeremiah Cooper. What I think Iowa State did was having two newer cornerbacks. I think they pulled the safeties back to try and help out the corners. And Cincinnati, to their credit, they counterpunched before the game even started. So they're probably thinking that we're just going to attack their corners to start the game. We're going to do something else, and we're going to run it right down their throats. And that's what they did. Iowa State gave up 200 yards rushing in the first half, over 10 yards a carry. And I thought they played pretty well to get themselves back in the game, but there's not many teams in this sport that can come out of a 31-7 hole. So I think that ended up being the biggest reason to suffer the first loss of the year.
Last year you guys had those two wide receivers. They're both in Houston right now, and Rocco was just able to really feed them. You guys have some great weapons again this year, though. Just one, how much better has Rocco gotten from last year? And two, where would you put those wide receivers? I don't think you'd say they're that caliber of last year, but how good are those two guys on the outside?
Oh, yeah. The Rocco has taken a massive, massive jump. And last year, he led 4 different game-winning drives in the final 2 minutes of games, and he was super clutch, but his completion percentage was only 59%. He threw 4 pick sixes last year. So he had super, super high highs and super low lows, and he's pretty much cut out all those lows. His accuracy has been incredible, and he's been clutch yet again this year. The weapons definitely on the surface, nowhere near Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knoll. There's a reason that those guys were second and third round picks in the NFL draft. I think this year they might have more weapons. They might be deeper when I really think they've got 4 wide receivers that are really good targets, and Chase Sowell, the former Buff, who was let go by Dion on his first week on the job, he's really emerged the last 2 games as an option after missing almost all of fall camp with an injury. And then the tight ends as well have really stepped up and been really productive both in the pass game and the run game. So maybe you maybe don't have a first or second round NFL draft pick on the outside, but there's options that Rocco's been utilizing.
We mentioned at the top that Carson Hansen is questionable for this game, Iowa State's leading rusher this season, but I think Abu Sama would be a starting running back for a lot of FBS Power 4 programs around the country. How important is that 1-2 punch at running back to Rocco Becht's success and just the fluidity of this offense?
Yeah, the run game has been an underrated aspect so far of Iowa State's offense, and it's because it hasn't been too flashy. Abu, he comes onto the scene 2 years ago. He has the K-State game that I'm sure everybody remembers in the snow where he ran for almost 300 yards. And he is a big play back, but he really hasn't had that this year. But at the same time, compared to last year, he's also cut out a lot of the negative runs because Abu would be kind of notorious for always trying to bounce it outside so he could break one of those big runs, and he'd run into a lot of 2nd and 16s as well. So he's gotten more consistent at turning nothing into 4 yards, turning a decent run into a good run. And that has been important for Iowa State to keep moving the chains. And they didn't do it great last week. They found themselves in a lot of third and longs, which is hard for any offense in the country. But for the most part this year, between Hansen and Sama, they've been able to get the offense in a lot of good situations.
We already talked about, the injuries in the secondary and a little bit about the defense and what Cincinnati was able to do last week. But, you've got Dominique Orange still, one of the better defensive tackles in the country. I guess, what's your level of concern with him and just the defense, considering what Cincinnati did running for 250 plus on them last week? Is that something that, that Colorado might be able to take advantage of again this weekend?
Yeah, Iowa State's biggest weakness is the defensive line. And that's even with Dominique Orange, who by all accounts is probably going to be a top 3-round pick in the NFL draft this spring. They haven't gotten much from the outside. They haven't really gotten any help from anybody other than Dom. And he graded out his worst game as a Cyclone last week. So is that a concern for it to carry over? Is it a one-off thing? I'm not quite sure. But what I do know is that around him, I don't have a ton of confidence. However, when I talk about the D-line being a weakness, I think that shows up a lot more in the pass rush game than it does run stoppage. The way Iowa State plays with the 3-down linemen, a lot of the run stoppage comes from the linebackers and safeties. So I think if they switch back to their normal defense and don't try to help the corners, which I don't think will happen again, I think they'll be okay in the run game, but I am extremely concerned about them rushing 3, not getting any pressure, and Caden Salter just dance around, and he is a mobile guy that's hard to bring down. I could see Salter having a really big day on the ground.
So could I. I mean, Sorsby took advantage of that last week. I think he ran for 64 and a touchdown on him. Iowa State certainly susceptible to the quarterback run. Last question I got for you, Jake, and I'm going to steal it from our guy, RK. Iowa State wins this game if they do what?
Iowa State wins this game if they don't lose the turnover battle. I think Salter has proven to be a really dynamic quarterback that has the potential to be really good if he cuts out those mistakes. Iowa State plays a bend but don't break defense, and they'll probably give up a lot of yards. But I think the hope for them is if they can pick off Salter 1 or 2 times and then on the other end, don't fumble, don't accidentally throw a pick, then I think Iowa State should be in good shape to win this game in a pretty close one at the end.
Awesome, man. This was great. This is Jake Brend from the Cyclone Fanatic. Jake, let us know where we can find your work, and shout out to you for wearing the Nuggets hat, bro.
Yeah, go Nugs. I became a Nuggets fan because of Monte Morris. So I never had a team growing up, and one of my best buds is from Colorado, diehard Nuggets fan, and this was Jokic's rookie year, and he kept telling me, we got this fat Serbian guy that's just unbelievable. So I started watching a little bit. I'm like, yeah, this team's fun, and if I need to choose a team, I'm definitely not going to bandwagon to somewhere. So after they drafted Monte, they made the playoffs for the first time, and I've been a diehard ever since. Cried real tears back in 2023. So that's the side tangent. But CycloneFanatic.com, Cyclone Fanatic on YouTube, that's the best place to find all of our game day coverage. And if you want to learn about Iowa State a little bit before the big game Saturday, feel free to join us over on Cyclone Fanatic.
You heard the man. Go check him out. Appreciate your time, Jake. This was awesome, man. Thank you.
Appreciate you, Jake.
Thanks a lot, guys.